Good afternoon, everyone. And today I'll be, sorry, one second. Today I'll be continuing the session of reflective practice in nursing, and I'll be discussing a few of the topics which is related to your reflection in nursing. Basically, as this is in the master's level, hope you have received your textbook and you have gone through your textbook as well, because your textbook covers majority of the basics. And in this subject, this is reflection in nursing is not only about the theory. The basics were taught from the books and from these lectures, but the major thing what you have to do is just put it into practice, because reflection in nursing is not a theoretical subject, it's more of a practical subject. As much as you perform things in your day-to-day clinical life as well as in your life, but in your clinical what do you call clinical practice, the things that you are using is the things that can be utilized into this reflection. So basically reflection is all about looking back the things what you have done, simply um, said. Okay, if I'm going through one of my lectures, one second, I'll just share the screen with you all. And I think all these, what do you call, um, I'm sharing my screen with you all. Um, can you all see this? Hope you all can see this screen. So today I'm going to discuss about the reflective practice. So it is a reflection, or this reflective practice is not a theory, but there are theory based on here, based on the reflection, but this is more of a practical thing. That's why it's called reflective practice. As a nurse, reflection is an essential component or an ability, or you can say a quality, which a good critically thinking nurse should have. Okay, so what is reflective practice? This is a very simple way. In the simplest form, you can get to know this thing as an ongoing dynamic process. That means changing every way, every time, and every day, in every minute, because the situation changes every time. The the clinical situation, or the hospital setup, or the ward setup which you are facing every day, or the experience which you are getting might be different. Might be different for this reflection. So that is why reflection is a dynamic process of thinking honestly, deeply, and critically about all the aspects of professional practice with children and families. So this is not about children's and families as well. This is about your because as nursing, I'm focusing more into your clinical side, because reflection is not basically onto clinicals. It is for your life. Even anyone in even anyone on this earth can do reflective practice. It's a very common thing, and because it changes with the experience that we are having on our day-to-day life, and it occurs spontaneously. Reflection is not what you can what you call what you can be what you can taught to someone, because each of our, 1 second, Because each of the time, um, the environment or the atmosphere that you guys are facing might be different. Because it's very simple example. If you're a nurse and you're working in a surgical ward, the experience that you are getting or the problems that you are facing are so different from what you are learning or what you are practicing when you are in a emergency care setup or within an ICU setup, which is a critical care setup. It's very different. And the experience is totally different if you are working in the mental health field. So hope you all understand what I'm telling you. So each and every reflection, what each and of every one of you are doing or what you are thinking is different from the experience that you are having, and as well as according to your personal taste, personal preferences, because my thinking pattern is different from yours. Even each of your thinking pattern is individualistic. That means it's different to all of you. Because if, as a ward setup, imagine me and my colleague nurses, we all are facing a patient issue within the ward setup, but the way that I am thinking or the way that I am seeing the problem is different from the way that others see the same problem. So maybe the atmosphere is the same, but the experience or the reflection that we are getting is different because of our individual preferences. That's what I just want to tell you. And reflective practice leads to action. That means reflection. When you are doing a reflection, anyway, you will put it into your practice. It's like today you touch a hot plate or hot surface and you burn your hand. For the next time when you see a hot surface, you know if you touch, you will burn your hand. It's simply what you have taught or what you have experienced previously has given you knowledge or some awareness regarding the hot surfaces can make yourself burn. It is simply can be explained in that way. Or else it's like now you're working in a critical care setup, you have found a patient with a kidney failure, chronic kidney failure, and the care that you are preparing or the care that you are giving to the specific case or for the specific patient might be helpful for you to understand the consequences of your care in order to treat someone or to care someone who's coming in the next year, or maybe in your duty shifts you might get a chance to treat or to care for another patient with the same sort of condition. So the previously known knowledge or the previously known experience will increase your level of knowledge, will increase your level of awareness. Thinking about the previous incidents and learning from them is what we called as reflective practice. So that reflective practice is essential in care setting. Why is that? Because care setting means the patients are always patients always got their problems. I mean, their health problems. The health can be either mental, physical, emotional, spiritual, any sort of thing. And when you are attending into their problems, you will get a good understanding about the problem and the risk factors or the consequences of those problems. Then you will find solutions for that. Imagine if you fail or you have mistakenly done something wrong. That's fine. That's fine. I'm telling that's fine mean you should not do any wrong things. But if you made a mistake, mistakes can happen. Human error can happen anytime. It's not what you call, not even in the nursing practice, even in any practice, even in medical practice, even in engineering, even in lawyers. In legal practice, in any practice, human errors can occur. But if you think back deeply, carefully, and honestly, without making any judgmental issues, just like imagine now you have given a wrong medication to a person and you are thinking, oh, maybe that's fine. No, that's not fine. Looking back at that incident and you have found that you have given a wrong medication, that's a medication error. And if you have gone through and learn about medication error and how to prevent medication error occurrence, you will get a knowledge and as well as a good awareness onto yourself. That awareness cannot be taken by someone else. That's yours. So that knowledge will help you to prevent the things that can happen in your practice again. So that is what we called as reflective practice. You have faced an incident, you have honestly and deeply and critically analyzed those incident and has found what has led to which part and what was your mistake, what was the positives, what were the negatives on the incident or the issue, and how you create, I mean, what was your action towards that, and what you have learned from that. It has helped you to have a personal growth. That personal growth means you will have knowledge to yourself, not others, but you. And that knowledge, what you have gained, can be utilized during your practice in order to prevent any mistakes. That means reflective practice can easily lead for minimizing human errors in your practice. So, see, this is why the use of reflective practice to recognize and continue good practices, because if you understand the problems, if you understand what were your mistakes, and if you take measures to prevent them, it will make your practice, your healthcare practice, or your nursing care a quality one, a good quality one. It will lead for a good practice, a good caring nurse, and change and improve what is not working well. Usually, this is what we called as, um, it's like in research, just like you will use one method and you will get an answer, and maybe the answer is wrong or the answer is biased, then definitely you have done something wrong. Maybe the method that you have used to get the answer is wrong, or there are errors on that. So those errors should be prevented, and that method may not be useful. Usually, those days we had different. If you take this thing, now nursing or the medical practice in today's world has came not from not from what you call the basics, but it came with all the evidences that we got through the practices. That's called evidence based practice. If you talk about the maternal delivery methods, those days in ancient time, delivery methods were different from the delivery methods that we are using in these days, right? Maybe it will get more. Now the water baths are coming. Those are very new kind of sort of maternal delivery methods in today's world. Maybe tomorrow it might get different, but usually on the ancient time, there were no C-sections. Mothers had very vigorous episiotomies, or none of the episiotomies were done. It was just like so many lacerations were there, right? And with the evidences they have found, okay, if there were a laceration, then the mom might get into trouble, or the mom might get very big hemorrhages. So with that, they have found something called an episiotomy. That's how episiotomy came up. And with the episode, and There are women who cannot go for normal deliveries or normal labor. Then, with the time passes, they have found a surgical method of taking the baby out, which we called as a C-section or a cesarean section. That's how the medical practice or the nursing practice has been evolved during the time. So, changes can improve what is not working well. Maybe the not putting a episiotomy has been denied. That fact has been denied, and putting episiotomy was the good fact. That is the method of working well. And there are two ways of putting the episiotomy as well. In those two ways also there are pros and cons. One way you will have much less pain but more bleeding. In the other way around, the lateral and the mediolateral incisions, I'm not talking about too much into that, but it's like there are so much more things, right? That means if you do a proper reflection in simple way in nursing, you will be able to understand what were the procedures or what are the practices which are not working well, which we have to deny, which we have to lose, and what are the practices that we have to improve, right? Okay. Then challenge practices that are taken for granted. It means just like finding new practices and adding them into your practice to make the high quality care. Monitor all aspects of practices on an ongoing basis. This is something that we have to do in our daily basis as well, not as nurse, as housewives. If you have something called a me time means it's like within the day before going to bed you will sleep. I mean, you will lie down your bed and you will think about all the work that you have done per day and what was the purpose of that, and what do you call the positive things on that, and what were the negative things on that, what didn't work well, which wasn't right. So what are the things that I have to do to make it more what do you call make it more successful? It's like if you are making a curry and you have put this curry powder, that curry powder, and it didn't taste well, and now those curry powders aren't working well with the curry, so the next day you will use something else. It's very simple. So I hope you do understand what is the use of reflection in our day-to-day life. And this is what we are doing as reflection. This is this is the what you call the method that we are doing the reflection, but we are doing it in our brain. But if you put it into a format or into a diagram, this is what we will do. Usually we will have um, what do you call identifying an issue or a topic. That's what we will do first. Collect information. That means, okay, I have a problem. I cannot make a good what do you call potato curry. And finding the issues. Oh, maybe I don't have proper mustard. I'm not putting enough turmeric powder. I'm not putting enough garlic, cloves, or anything. And we are searching, okay, what makes the potato curry much more tastier, what were there. And then you will analyze, okay, what are the ingredients in a good potato curry, and what do I have, what do I don't have, and what are the benefits of eating a good potato curry. And if you didn't put all those ingredients in proper what do you call measurements, again problems might happen. So you will plan to make the curry, then you will make the curry, then you will give it to everyone and ask their reviews. Then, according to their reviews, you will do what you call, you will increase and decrease the ingredients. Okay, some might say, okay, we need more gravy. Some might say, okay, the potato hasn't boiled well. And some might say, okay, we need little bit more green leaves into that. Some might say, okay, it's very tasty, but the texture has to be little bit thick. So with the reviews, again you will start the process. I'm just taking a potato curry just as an example, right? Don't ever write it on an assignment that Miss Kalanika has taught us reflection using a potato curry, right? This is a very simple way of telling you what reflection is. Hope you all do understand what I am telling. Someone can unmute the phone and just tell me if you have any question, or am I too fast, or what I am telling is not in an understandable way. Someone can unmute or someone can type and tell me. Hope everyone hears me clearly, as well as hope everyone sees the screen clearly.
It's clear and understandable.
Okay, thank you very much.
Very understanding.
Okay, now when I'm going to reflection on and in action, reflection on, there are two ways. There is something called reflection on action. The other one is reflection in practice. Reflection on means reflection on actions helps to learn new ways of working through, sharing ideas, and thinking collaboratively about practice. Reflection in practice helps to challenge practitioners in a collegial way and leads to better curriculum decision making. Reflection on action means, now you are there in a ward setup. You guys are treating a diabetic wound. Now, in a diabetic wound, there are there may be, very experienced nurses. The nurses who has been newly appointed, the nurses who transferred from other hospitals and came. So there are different what do you call, nurses within a ward setup who will be looking after this patient. Now each and everyone's, now as general, as human beings, when we are coming from different backgrounds and from different experience, our knowledge levels and our practice levels might be differ. The way that I am giving an IV is not the way that someone else might be giving an IV. So it's the same way. The way that I am treating or the way that I am caring for a diabetic wound might not be, what do you call, the way that I'm cleaning might not be the same for someone else, even though we have studied the same nursing. We have studied the same way of cleaning a wound, cleaning a diabetic wound. But the practice might be different. Our handheld, what do you call, mm, our handheld abilities are different, qualities are different. My style of wound dressing is different. So, reflection on action means when we are doing it collaboratively, that means all together, we put our things into the discussion and we will get into the best thing. I will say handling this forceps this way and putting this kind of dressing is the best. Then some might say, okay, no, washing it with this and then this, putting this kind of gauze is the best way. Someone else, okay, maybe usually, because as in the country which I am living in, I am experiencing what I have seen in this country is how the whole healthcare team collaborates in care. The multidisciplinary approach I have studied when I was in Sri Lanka, but I have experienced it when I'm here in Australia. Because you will really see into your eyes how physiotherapists, radiographers, doctors, nurses, and all the healthcare workers collaboratively taking decisions on care as well as treating patients. very what do you call very successful method, rather than what do you call what we are using in Sri Lanka. I'm not telling it's what you call down seas, no, but it's different. When we are collaboratively putting our ideas, so much more good ideas comes. But in some settings, what the head or the unit manager says, we will take it as God's words. We won't even use our brains to develop new ideas. That should not be done. If you and your whole team in the healthcare setting is in reflection on action, it means you guys are working out and finding new ways of treating patients or sorting out the problems, or bringing the best care to the patient. Hope you understand this thing. And reflection in practice means helps to challenge practitioners in a collegial way and leads to better curriculum in decision making. Reflection in practice, what we have now I think even in our nursing curriculums we are learning reflection. Those days we didn't had in our old nursing curriculum in Sri Lanka. I think even in other countries also they didn't had a subject or good attention to this reflection in practice. But now, as a latest trend, reflection in practice is there in the theory of studies as well, because it will give a better understanding and better knowledge when you are learning nursing. Reflection in practice, right? Then reflection on action means when you are utilizing what you have learned at NTS into your practice at the ward setup, right? Reflection in practice is also useful in contexts where it is difficult to find time away from the children to reflect with colleagues. So this presentation is not basically about nursing. This is about life. So you don't exactly see something which is directly related to nursing in this presentation. But listen to what I am telling. What I am talking is much more into your nursing practice. Why we have to reflect? Why we have to reflect? Now I think you all know why we have to reflect. It's because higher quality practices and better outcomes for children and families. This is basically about children and families, but I can say if you have reflected and you have found good ways or good practices or good knowledge on procedures, you can put up a good quality practice to the setup, to the clinical setup, to the healthcare setup. Then who will get the advantage? Of course, the patients or the clients who are getting your care at the healthcare setting. It is not even limited to the hospital. If you are a mom and if you have good care for your patients, you will definitely take care of your children in a good way as well. It's just like balancing the life. If you have learned, if you know how to reflect about the things in your life, you will have, I won't say a perfect life, but a well balanced life, right? So in day to day life, make it as a habit to reflect. This is what is missing in most of our lives, because we will reflect only if we had a problem, right? We won't reflect in any of the days that we didn't had a problem. But you can look at the experience and you will at least predict what can happen next, right? Awareness of values and beliefs, as well as awareness regarding different type of practices, awareness regarding different type of knowledge, what were the latest research which were done, something like that. Have you ever seen the papal dressing for the to remove the sloughs from the chronic wounds? Yeah, the papal dressing means the papaya dressing, where you will get the unripe papayas and put it to remove the slough from the slough or the debris from the wounds. So that practice has been there because there were people who believed that from ancient time onwards there is something with this papaya or from the natural things into the modern medicine. So people had done research on that, and then people has found, not only found, they have utilized into the practice. And even in Sri Lankan setting, still we are using that. Maybe in some other time these natural or the herbal medicine might get what you call get more into the move more into the modern medicine and will make it more successful and useful, right? Just like the maggot therapy, you know, maggot therapy, where you will use the maggots to clean the wounds. Yes, same way. Those are evidence-based practices. Those are research outcomes. So that's what you have to reflect. That not like putting maggots into a new patient's wound, but there are, if you believed on something, there are things that you can change. I have seen many nurses in Sri Lanka who has invented many different things because they have believed on some practices which went error, right? Just like imagine for a simple thing, Thomas Alva Edison has failed 99 times, or I think it's 9,900 or 999 times um, to find a light bulb. So he has done research on that and he believed somehow there is a way. And finally he has found it. So I won't say you all to do invention, what you call interventions, a new sort of thing, but at least update your knowledge with the latest research findings. Even for child malnutrition, that is a study which I am little bit more interested on these days, about the child malnutrition and the measurements, and how the measurements differ from the foreign countries into the Southeast Asian region. And is there any other way that we can make a new set of measurements? Things like that, right? um, this is leads to inclusive environment means, you know, usually people are there who are exclusive. That means who are always in the top of the pyramid, who are in the top hierarchy level. The inclusivity is the people who are always down, just like, you know, the typical nurses who doesn't like to update their knowledge. I can clearly see this within our setting. Even in the world also it's the same. Even in here also it's the same. When someone gets older, much more experience, it's your seniority should be reflected by your practice. For words we will say, the wine gets more better, it gets old. As the same way, a nurse, a registered nurse who turn more experienced with the maturity has to have more sort of knowledge and more awareness and reflection than other people, right? So always leads to inclusive environment for the people who from the inclusivity will get exposed into the top levels through the reflection, through updating their knowledge, right? And leads to seeking research. Of course, when you are doing reflection by yourself, you will feel like you should research some of the resources from the internet. If you don't know, okay, what are the newest wound dressing methods, what are the newest what do you call ventilators and how they are operating. not like the old ventilators what we have here in our setup. And the surgery methods which are changing. The plastic surgery, I think I have seen that even in Sri Lanka, that was some of the plastic surgeons who had the foreign training and who came newly, they are introducing the new techniques to the Sri Lankan setup. So it's like that. As much as you do research, as much as resources that you refer, your knowledge will get higher and your care will get better, right? And promotes collaboration between professionals. This thing in Sri Lankan setup, it's a bit hard, but it's what you can do. It's not a can't, it's a can do thing. If you have been an updated nurse, there is no other profession in our field that will put you down. If we as nurses, if we grow up by our own self without waiting until someone comes and pour us knowledge, if we have our own what do you call, enthusiasm, or our own push to find knowledge, or the thirst to get the knowledge, we will be able to collaborate between medical officers, physiotherapists, radiographers, or anything, with anyone, right? And this is about the case studies. I don't go much into this. I'll just have you all gone through the what do you call, reflection models? Have you all gone through the reflection models? Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, if you guys have gone through, I won't repeat this. Here we have the Gibbs reflective cycle. It has been invented in 1988. So I won't go through this because as you have all gone through the Gibbs reflective cycle, I won't go for. This is Driscoll in 2000. This is also another reflection model. But what we are commonly using is the Gibbs reflective cycle. Why is that? Because it's very simple and easy to understand, and you know what you have to do. I'll just take this figure and just show you. It's about the description. When you are writing a reflection, I'll give an example. It's like this. If you are writing a reflection, okay, we'll take an example of you, um, what, anyone who is there can unmute their phone and give me an incident in your life or in your clinical setup, which would you like to do a reflection. Give me an incident. Okay, I will choose one. It's the incident is um, what do you call? Okay, you know when patients are not compliant, a patient doesn't have the compliance for medications, right? Okay, the incident, the description is, the incident is, imagine a nurse has gone and given a medication to the patient in the morning, and she wasn't there until he drinks or until he takes the medication. She just came out from the room or just came out from near the bed, and then what the patient has done is patient has thrown all the tablets onto the floor, right? Without taking any medication, and you have found it in the afternoon time, right? When you are going to give the second medication. Now I'm just building up, this is a lie, right? I'm just building up an incident. Okay, that is what has happened. Now you were the nurse. I know this type of things might has happened many times. You were the nurse, allocated nurse, and you are going there and giving medications to the person or the patient. Patient takes it, and you thought, okay, the patient might drink it, and suddenly you got another, what you call, work to do. So what you are doing is you just give the water and you are just coming back. And then when you are going second time, you have seen that that's an antibiotic. Imagine that's an antibiotic. Now the second, once you are going to give the second dose, you have found that, okay, the first dose is there on the floor. Patient has refused, non-compliance, right? And how you felt? First of all, definitely you might feel anger. Anger is a simple human being feeling. Even as a nurse, we are not gods to not have any anger feelings. Anyway, we have the control over our anger. So the first feeling that you might get is anger, right? Once you got anger, you should always control your mouth. Otherwise, you will end up scolding the patient without knowing that you are a nurse, right? Without forgetting. Don't forget that you are a nurse. So you have the feeling of anger, then you have the feeling of what do you call, sadness, because you have not given that, and you have the feeling of scare, because you are now scared if something has gone with, if something is wrong with the patient's blood reports or anything, it's because that's some might complain that you haven't given the proper medications to the patient, right? Those type of mixed feelings will be there. Evaluation. Now, if you evaluate the incident, what were the good and the bad? What were the good was you have given the medication on time, you have done the 3 checks, you have what you call, selected the medication without any errors, nothing, the proper medication administration done. But what were the bad on that was you missed what? You missed,
මේකේ මේ පළවෙනි ස්ක්‍රීන් එකමනේ තියෙන්නේ කියන්න නැද්ද?
sorry,
මේක ලොකු කරලා යන්නේ.
sorry, I can hear what you guys telling. Tell me. What I'm doing is I'm just going through this cycle and telling you what it is. I'm not changing any of the slides, girls.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, because I know that you guys have already gone through this. I'm just going through only with this picture just to tell you what it is and what to write in a reflection. Hope you do understand what I'm telling. So far you understood?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. If you got any problem, just tell me, huh?
Okay.
Okay. So I'll just continue. It's like this. Okay. Now then, what was the good and bad about that was, the good was that you have given the medications, that sort of things. The bad was the patient hasn't taken any medication and you have lost the, what do you call, your eye on patient for a minute. You have already done the full set of medication procedure, but you forgot to wait until the patient takes the medication. You have administered the medication, but until the patient takes the medication, until that you have to stay there, because that's what we have learned in our NTS times. What is the complete medication procedure? You have to give the water and you have to wait until the person takes the medication into the mouth and then, of course, digest it. Until that you have to wait. Because if the patient is not swallowing the medication and as soon as you go outside, if he is putting it out, then the medication procedure is not a completed one, because you have to have a good understanding who patients are, who are the patients that you are caring of, right? Then the analysis. What else can you make of the situation? What else you could have done on that? Usually what else means, now you know what were the bads and the good. Now you know what were missing on you was the proper care, the proper care after administrating the medication. You forgot to stay there for a while until the patient swallow the medication, right? So what you could have done more is just to make your second work a little bit late and to give the priority for the patient's medication administration procedure. If you have completed the procedure well, then there's nothing to worry. Conclusion was, now you know, if you have administered the medication, you have to stay there. My conclusion is that whenever, from the next time onwards, when I am administrating any medication, I will stay there. If it is an oral medication, I will stay there until the patient swallow the medication, or until the patient completely swallow the medication. If it is an IV, I will stay there until the patient, until to see the patient, how patient reacts after the IV administration, not giving the IV and then running back again into the ward because you guys are so busy, right? That is not the proper way. The action plan is, whenever you are doing this sort of procedure again, you will definitely not forget to do what? You will definitely not forget to stay there until the last minute and complete the procedure. Then you are happy as well as the patient is happy and everyone is happy. No complaints at all, right? It's simple because I know that you guys have already taught this thing, learned this thing. So I'm just telling you, this is what usually it is, right? Mm. So this is about how you are writing. Okay. Okay. I'll just do a little bit on reflection journals. Reflective learning journals. You know, in here, in what do you call, in any practice, especially in Australia, if you are moving from one practice to another, or usually this is what you are carrying most of the time, a reflective journal. If you are, what do you call, assessing your skills here, or if you are just like applying for a higher job, or if you are applying for academics or any sort of jobs, if you are moving from one to another, they will definitely ask for a reflective journal or a reflective description. Reflective description is also same like the journal page. It's like, can you see these? Sorry. So a reflective journal is something that you are daily, it's like a diary or a logbook which you are writing about your daily incidents, or what were your feelings, what were good and bad about that, and what should you have what you have gained on them, one what are the things that has to be improved within you, will be written in a document that is called a reflective journal or a diary or a logbook. Usually in here also, uh, even in our practice, they might tell you to bring or just like whatever you have experienced in your clinical setup, write it like a reflective journal or scripts, just like 1 or 2 page, and bring it when you are coming. They will just check how much what you call how much you are more into the practice. I mean, what is the level of your reflection about your practice? That's what they will measure. So so a learning journal is a written document, as what I have said, create as they think about the various concepts, events or intersections over a period of time for the purpose of gaining insight into self-awareness and learning. This is simply what I have said before as well. It will reflect uh, how much you will be what you call gained through the practices, and what are the new uh, learning, what are the new what do you call ideas that you have learned. So these are the things that you will write on a journal. And characteristics of a learning journals, it is compiled on an incremental basis over a period of time. It's just like if you have started from the nursing from first year to 5 years, then of course with the 5 years you will see there is how much what you call incremental basis is there. That means how much things that you have gained throughout the years, from the first day of the NTS compared to the final year of the NTS, final year of the NTS compared to the first or second year on your practice, first year of practice compared to the 5 years of practice. It's like that. When you are writing, you will get to know how you came. It's like reading your own diary. And provided a record of events and experiences, definitely. Those unforgettable events, those what you call wounds that you have handled, those patients that you have handled, different type of things, everyone, different cases, vast variety of cases you will be able to identify through this. And focus on identifying learning, definitely this is through writing a journal, the main outcome would be your own professional development. And focus on identifying learning and constrains reflective commentaries on accounts. Contains reflective commentaries means that means the incidents that you have described. Because uh, just like in English, if you have given a picture and the way that you are describing it, as the same way whatever the incident that has happened in your clinical setup, you will describe. Those are the things that we call as commentaries. That's what this incremental basis is. It need to be over a time period. It's like you will write it today, and after about 1 week you will write it back. Then you will stop writing, and again after 2 or 3 years you will start writing. No, that's not. It should be over a period of time. You have to write it daily, or either for a 3 months period or a 1 year period, something like that. Especially to see, particularly for students who need to develop to the level of professional competency within a set period of time. Just like if you go to NTS first year, then you should know NTS first year to final year, something like that, right? um, Recording events and experience. Need to written regularly to this is what events and experiences what you are experiencing in your day-to-day life, you can just write it down. um, Identifying learning, journals need help for learning. For that, when you write events, need to identify who, what, and how things help to improve you. If you are a third year nurse or a fourth year nurse, and if you are there with okay, you guys have sent me a request on describing the second assignment of reflection in nursing. So anyway, as you have said, I will then stop this thing now from here, and I will briefly describe about that. Okay. For that, just give me one moment just to download your assignment, and I will reflect on that. 1 second. Okay, 1 second. It's loading. Have you all finished writing assignment 1 or 2? Sorry, 1?
Still writing it.
Still writing. That's good. Still writing. Good progress. Make sure you will proofread it. Once you write it, just try to proofread it. Go through it back again rather than submitting it directly, right? 1 second. Assignment 1 was Kolb's model of the learning. And I'll go to the assignment question 2. Oh, this is a very good, what do you call, reflection in today's, this is the, what do you call, best, I think the most suitable one to today's, okay, everyone can see this? This is about the task that you are given on reflection. 1 second. Sorry. I will share my screen. This is the assignment that we are going to discuss. Okay. This is about reflecting critically on your roles and responsibilities as a part of your country's healthcare team during the COVID-19 pandemic period that made you distressed or unhappy or left you uncomfortable with the consequences. I have seen many nurses in my Facebook also, the one who couldn't even go home as one of the persons who were COVID positive has been tested and had close contact with the nurses, and they all were quarantined in the same premises, who couldn't even go to their houses for about 14 days, 2 weeks period. And the people who were on duty for a long period time, who didn't even visit their houses, who were very unhappy, distressed, but then they were like national heroes who has saved many people's life by sacrificing their own benefits, the time that they could have stayed with their loved ones at home. But one who has sacrificed most of their time, valuable time, for the sake of the all the patients, right? So this is like very very simple one, which you can write many pages, but make sure to what do you call, do it for how long? It's 5,000 only, right? Use the reflective practice model. In here you have to use the Gibbs one, Gibbs reflective practice, right? You don't use any of the other models. This is the model that you have to use for assignment 2, right? Because assignment 1 was based on Kolb's model. Use the reflective practice model adapted from Gibbs after Kolb's. After Kolb's means after Kolb's 1 only, this Gibbs reflective practice cycle came up. So as illustrated below, to enter this experience in your reflective journal and explore inferences generated from the experience. Very simple. I don't understand how much, what do you call, what were the experiences that each and every one of you had during your nursing time. I know you all must have been there in the hospitals during these pandemic issues, while we were all at our houses spending time. I know how hard it might be. um, so basically about the introduction, you can just write about the COVID-19 issue, how it got started, and what were the characteristics of that. So this is the synopsis. From the synopsis you can get an idea what you have to write on an introduction, and how what you call, public health emergency has been declared in the world, where it has started, how it has affected many people, and what were the international concerns on that, how the world has worked on that, and then how Sri Lankan setting, how you guys managed on that, how the government managed the incidents, from the day that the first case has been reported until the last case reported, until now it's getting reported, until that how, what is the journey from last December, sorry, January onwards. COVID-19 started on December, until last December onwards, how it has affected Sri Lanka and to the world as well. Those facts and figures you can write in the introduction, right? I'm just simply explaining it because this is very simple assignment compared to anything else. Nothing much to explain by myself. And okay, give me 1 second until I switch on my laptop. Okay. Then the chapter 2 is about understanding on the reflective practice model adapted from the Gibbs. So what you have to do is write about a brief introduction about the Gibbs reflective cycle and who has invented that, what are the phases of that, what those phases reflect, I mean small descriptions about each phase, and what do you call, what are the use of Gibbs reflective cycle, and what do you call, what are the positives on that, and what were the new research or any curriculum updates on Gibbs reflective cycle, why it has been, because the Gibbs reflective cycle hasn't been found by a nurse, it's by an educationist. How come an education, a theory or a cycle which has found by an educationist, how it came into the normal nursing practice? Because it was not into nursing, it's for the social sciences. How it has been adapted for nursing, right? Those kind of things you can write on the second what do you call, chapter. And then the third chapter, which you have to write more, because as about the word count, I have already told you on that day. Wait, okay. The introduction will be around 500 to 750 words, and about the understanding on the reflective practice model, this is very little you have to write. It's also again 500 to 750 words. And then here you have a big chapter to write. This should be around 1000 to 1250, exemplifying a reflective account on roles and responsibilities that cause distressed, unhappy, or feeling uncomfortable of the consequences by the utilizing reflective practice model. Okay. Here you have to do a reflection about your incident. Imagine you were working in IDH and you have been given the COVID-19, what do you call, pandemic training, and you have been allocated directly into those wards, and you have given all the safety precautions and everything. All the resources were given, and you were being asked to work as the staff nurse for those patients, right? Imagine that kind of incident and write how you felt, what was the incident, how you felt. And when you have found that some people were hiding the incident until they were tested positive from the PCR test, until they were get positive, they were not even what do you call, revealing any of the contacts that they had with the people who had COVID, right? Those kind of things. I know definitely you might feel distress, disappointed, and anger. Why this is happening to us, right? Feelings like that. Write it down, right? This chapter 2, which you are writing on here, is basically, sorry, chapter 3, not chapter 2, introduction. Introduction is chapter 1, then chapter 2 is about the Gibbs model, chapter 3 is about your reflection about your incident. Right? How those what do you call, uh, being a nurse in a pandemic situation like this has affected your life. What were the experiences that you had during your care to those patients? And what else? Why you felt so uncomfortable? Also, why you felt so unhappy during that time? And what were the things that you were missing in your life? What were the things that you were sacrificing? This is very this is very nicely you can write it down. It's like a small what do you call, um, a primary one's essay, because you can write many things, because according to your feeling you can write many more things about this, what you have felt. And make sure what you call, when you are writing it, write it according to this, right? Description of the situation. What has happened? You have been allocated to the IDH into this ward with all the safety measures, safety precautions to take care of these people, and how you felt. Was it good? Was the experience good or bad? And what was good about that? What was bad about that? Maybe the good about that was, okay, now you have been, you had the experience on that as well for your professional growth. And what was the bad about that? Of course, you have a risk to get the COVID-19, even though you have all sort of precautions, because there are what do you call, cases which were not revealing, who were hiding that they were positive. They have found through the laboratory test at that time, all the nursing staff has been exposed, right? Then analysis. What were the good and what were the bad about that? If people were what you call escaping from the hospitals, I have seen nearly, I mean, recently someone has been escaped and they have found him from the Kandakadu quarantine center, the one who got admitted to IDH, who has been escaped from the premises, and finally within the day they have found him. So things like that, you can, I mean, from the newspapers you can get an incident. It's not the same incident that you might not have given gone through, but from looking at the newspapers, you can imagine, you can draw your own incident into this. And analysis, what were your assumptions about the situation? How might they have informed you thinking? I mean, what you have already gone through, this is too much for you. Sometimes that's how nurses think. Being a nurse is the most, what you call, worst thing in the world. No, but it's not. That's what you have to analyze. What were the positives on that? What were the negatives on that? Then conclude. Conclude means what we have to do to minimize the negatives, what we have to do to improve the positives. Very simply. And then action plan is, one second. No, you don't have to, sorry, you don't have to, what do you call, describe all of your experience. You know, the major, the whole experience, the you have been appointed. Now imagine, if I am writing, this is my experience. I have been appointed as a nurse at IDH to directly care for the patients with COVID-19, and suddenly one patient has escaped from our premises. That is the incident, the one which has happened recently. I will imagine that I was there, and I will put myself into that position and I will write. That is called reflection, right? If you look back, maybe the nurse who was really there might not feel what I'm feeling, right? That's what I'm telling you. If any of the patient, any of the nurses who were there might not reflected like what we are reflecting, so our reflection might be much more, nice ones than the real people who has gone through the real situation. So you don't have to describe all of your experience. Take one major incident or one major description. One major incident or one major situation out of whole your experience. Yes. Should we describe each and every experience according to, yeah, that's what I have answered. Got it? Anything if you want, you guys can type it down. And then you can write about the conclusion. What were the positives? What were the negatives? You had the COVID training, you had the, what you call, emergency training, and so all sort of things. Those were your positives. What were the negative? Negative means you have been put out to a very risky situation without proper resources. I know majority of the nurses hadn't had much resources, but what were the good, the positives? What I have seen in Sri Lanka is I have seen many nurses who were inventing different face masks, face covers, body covers, because they can be stayed at back. That were very, proudly we were talking about that, not like in Australia or any other country where they had all sort of resources for the nurses just to face the COVID-19. But in a country like Sri Lanka, where we were not being that much affected, but we were a very small country in the Southeast East Asian region, and we had really good healthcare staff. We are maintaining very good health indicators out of whole world. And to put us into that kind of place in the world. It's all about our staff who worked onto that. So finally, the conclusion was, and what do you call, many people were, what do you call, maybe media campaigns were done for looking for this patient, and the conclusion was, putting us into a what do you call, situation like this has increased our, what do you call, experience. Maybe that's definitely, our experience will get higher, and the awareness will get higher. The level of knowledge of handling that sort of pandemics might get higher. Maybe this is the maybe in our total nursing life, maybe this is the only pandemic issue that we have faced. Maybe this is the biggest one that we have ever faced, right? So conclude it according to your own ideas. What were your knowledge gains? What were your, what do you call, positives within you? What you have gained, majority, right? And then action plan. What are you going to do if this, what the things that you have learned from this COVID-19 experience, how can you utilize the same for your normal setting? Now imagine in the next few months, the COVID-19 might go away. If COVID-19 go away, what we will do? We will stop all the precautions? No, definitely not. There is a tail off method of losing the precautions, but those sort of new inventions that we have done, can you remember the face mask, the face covers, using the plastic bottles, the plastic covers, different ones, those helmets and the body kits, everything, those can be utilized for further infection control measures within the ward setup. I mean, what people have invented, those can be, there are different things that you can write. I'm just telling few things, right? According to your own incident or your own experience, you can write many more things. I'm just writing it according to things which is coming into my mind. And what are you going to do in this type of situation next time? What steps are you going to take based on what you have learned? I mean, I have seen it in many what do you call, news channels, as well as in the social media, people saying that these words, quarantine, kandakadu, these face mask, all of those things were there in our society, but those things were prioritized in a high demanding way in this situation. Those things were there. We have seen all sort of sanitizers in food cities and everywhere, but we haven't even considered. But now with the issue, see how many very good. Yes, what you are telling is totally correct. In your oral presentation, you have to put what you have written into a presentation slide, but make sure you don't write too much. When I'm sharing this screen, okay, wait, I'll just show you something. Look at this presentation. This is how a presentation should be, not the green color one, right? I'm telling you, the slides which you are making should be very simple. The first slide would be about the COVID-19 and the world crisis. You can put a map and you can put a table or a pie chart or anything and show. Then the second thing would be what do you call, about um, the what do you call, the Gibbs reflective cycle. The third, or those few more slides, because I don't think you don't have to do more than 10 to 15 slides. Maximum should be 15 slides will be enough just to do this presentation. I don't know how many slides that Ahalya has been asked from you to do, but I think more than the maximum should be 15, including your first and the last slide, because not more than that, it's hard to manage. And then you can describe about the incident that you have faced or any incident which was there in the newspaper, thinking that you were the nurse who has gone through that experience, and think back and write down the action plan, what you can do to make this thing progress or to continue, not the COVID-19. Then people might arrest you if you try to write things how to maintain COVID-19 for the next 2 to 3 years. No, you have to write how to maintain this kind of safety precautions or safety environment, a very safe environment for the next 2 to 3 years within your hospital setting or within your society, right? Because people had really raised their awareness as they face for this kind of pandemic. Now people know the value of hand washing. Now people know the value of wearing a mask even in a dust environment. Now they know even not even to protect yourself from bacteria or virus, but to protect yourself from silica or any other dust. Now people got to know. Now people were aware about the environment that they are in. Those kind of awareness was not there in Sri Lanka previously. Nothing. Now people know what social distancing is. Now people know what is the use of social media is for. And now people know what social gathering, limited social gathering means. Right? Those things can be utilized in further in your further work, how you can utilize those. That's what you have to write. Any other questions, girls? Anyone?